Hi, my name is Jennifer Watkins from Watkins Through Life, and I am a bookaholic, and it has been 21 days since my last book, which I know is absolutely shameful. It's been an adjustment reading only the books that are on my shelves, and it's starting to work out now that I'm getting into a rhythm. My favorite part so far has been when I finish a book and I put it back on the shelves, and then I just get to stand here and stare lovingly at my bookshelves. And it's a wonderful feeling. Libraries are great, but it's completely different when they're your own books. Anyways, here's the lowdown on the books that I have read so far this year. The first book I started off with was one that my mother-in-law lent to me, and she's been getting on a murder mystery kick, so it was Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz. And honestly, I don't have a lot to say about this book. It was a murder mystery book within a murder mystery book with an ending that I really didn't see coming. All that aside, it was really slow pulling me into the book, and by the time I was invested, it was switching storylines, and so then I had to get reinvested all over again. And as a reader, I enjoy reading murder mysteries where I can kind of guess whodunit, and it just makes me feel so special that I figured it out, And this book, it was really a surprise, which was fun and amazing, but not really my cup of tea. It was a good experience, and I am reading the sequel, so we'll see how that goes. Maybe it's just something that I need to get into. The second book that I read this year was Esperanza Rising, and the last time that I read this was way back in maybe 4th or 5th grade, maybe even middle school. Memory's a little bit hazy there. And it is just by far way better than I remembered it being. The author is weaving in culture and history and politics in a way that is so authentic and easy to grasp for young readers, which is very skillful. There are themes and motifs that the author is weaving throughout the book, and they are repetitive, but they're just obvious enough that young readers who are just starting to recognize those themes are able to do it without feeling like they need an adult's assistant. They recognize the importance of the blanket without you having to tell them. And that's just one of the reasons why I think it could not have been written any more perfectly. The third book that I got into this year was A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor by Hank Green, and with how the last book left off on a cliffhanger, of course I had to pick this one up and read it. I mentioned a couple of videos ago that this was one of my top 2 read books for this year, and no regrets. The last book left off in a place where I didn't really love the characters. I loved the storyline, the plot, the intrigue, it was awesome, but the characters were becoming less likable for me, and this book changed everything about this. I absolutely fell in love with every stinking one of them. And as for the cliffhanger, I was left thinking over probably the course of a year, like, what's he gonna do next? Who knows what he'll write? And honestly, I probably should have seen it coming because it's Hank Green. Like, what else should I have expected? Of course there's biology tangents and 80s music and marine biology just creeping on in. Of course there's economic ripples and new technology and social media influencer. He's Hank Green. What else did I expect other than a beautiful conglomeration of all of his interests just wrapped up into one very unique plot? The fourth book that I got into this year was called Feeling Good by David Burns, and I actually started it last year, but I had been renting it through an audiobook, and so it took me a couple checkouts to finish. Finally, I ended up buying it, and I have no regrets. This book is an incredible resource for anybody struggling with a mental health problem, because a lot of times I've thought of therapy as just talking through your problems or finding the reason for them, and this book, it gives you resources and strategies to use. I was at first skeptical about his theories because, really the power of mind thinking and like it's just gonna magically go away, and it doesn't magically go away. But these strategies are a way to help us cope with the different thought processes that we have in life. It's a book that I need to go through and read again and highlight and mark up and put sticky notes in. The next book that I picked up is actually one that I got from a summer reading challenge last year with my library, which I totally recommend looking into in your local library. It's a great way to possibly just get like a free Chipotle coupon or a free book, because we all know we're reading the books anyways. Might as well get a reward for it. Anyways, the book is called All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven, and she's the same person who wrote Holding Up the Universe. I really enjoyed this book. It took me a while to decide if I did like this book or not, but in the end I've really decided I do like this book. Because no one talks about suicide, no one talks about mental illness, and it is so unbelievably common. And because we don't talk about it, there are so many people out there, especially teenagers and the young, vulnerable population, who don't understand how common it is, and they end up feeling other or alone. And I feel like we need to start bringing it into conversations, which this book definitely does. When I got to the end of this book, I was a little disappointed, and I started thinking, how could she write a book like this? How could she write a book that ends like this? And the more I continued reading through the last final chapters and thinking about it, I realized, how could she not write a story like this? We need these stories. We need the truth and the reality of it, and we need to know that it isn't the end of life. Life goes on. Life continues. It isn't perfect, but you might say it flows, which makes more sense if you've read the book. Like I said earlier, the books that I'm reading now, I'm reading Moonflower Murders, which is the sequel to Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz, and I'm really enjoying it. It was easier to jump into than the last one for me, but that might just be because I already knew the characters. The second book that I'm reading right now is The New Policeman, and it was gifted to me by a friend who was moving out of town. Love when that happens. And so far, it's like a mid-grade level, early YA kind of a science fiction novel that takes place in Ireland, and it's like nothing I've ever read before, and jury's still out on it, but I'm enjoying it so far. I'm not gonna lie, 2021 has gotten off to more of a rocky start with my reading rhythm than I thought that it would. I have been reading audiobooks for so long that I feel like I kind of lost my stamina or my endurance for sit down and do nothing else but reading, and I've missed it. And it's been hard trying to build that stamina back up, but starting with smaller amounts of time and gradually reading for more and more and more, it is starting to feel more natural again. And I'm going back into all those reader cliches of how many positions can I be in while reading this book. Right now, I'm really starting to feel like I'm hitting my stride again. And honestly, the first book, Magpie Murders, it was hard for me to get into that, and it had nothing to do with the book and everything to do with me. But by the time I hit Esperanza Rising, I remembered I really do enjoy sitting down and reading these books. One of the reasons I haven't read a book for 21 days is because I've been spending a lot of time doing yard work. We've been doing a lot of backyard projects, and I haven't had a lot of time to just sit down and read. And so I did end up, for The New Policeman, renting out an audiobook for it, and I have started the audiobook version, and then as soon as I finished Moonflower Murders, I'll pick up the actual book for A New Policeman and keep going with that. Anyways, this has been your 2021 update on my shelf challenge. Make sure to let me know what you are reading in the comments. I'm always looking forward to good book recommendations. And I will see you next time. Bye. Of course, we have to have our Moo cameo. Say bye, Moo. Bye, Moo.